Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the panel today. What concerns me the most about this EPA proposed waters of the U.S. rule is that it's just another example of what's become an all too common practice of this administration to reach into the livelihoods and pocketbooks of the American people that it's supposed to be helping. Even before this rule is finalized, the cost of just the proposed rule to the people it's supposed to be helping is staggering. Think about the amount of time taken for respondents to file over 1 million comments to the proposed rule, the number of congressional hearings, including this one, and individual small businesses and county and state governments who've worked hard to keep this rule from destroying their livelihoods has cost already millions of dollars to counter a government that was created to be of assistance. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just share some of the comments taken from the testimony of each of today's witnesses. I think they tell the story of what is a misguided rule better than any of us on the committee can tell it. And these are just some of the excerpts from about the proposed waters of the U.S. rule from today's testimony. Lacks clarity, consistency, certainty. One-size-fits-all regulation is not the answer. State and local governments were not adequately consulted. Undefined and unclear and lack of clarity. I have yet to receive a direct answer from EPA. Adds to confusion and complicates already inconsistent definitions. The number of waters protected by the Clean Water Act will increase. Increases regulatory burdens. Significant costs. Fails miserably at adding clarity. Threatens the agricultural community. Extensive legal arguments have been made explaining how the rule is unlawful. Vagueness and uncertainty surrounding the rule. States were not included in a meaningful way in creating the new definitions. EPA proposal will subject agricultural operations to more pervasive federal intrusion. The rule is clearly focused on expanding the role of the federal regulatory agencies into the daily lives of people around the country. It appears that I will now need a federal permit in order to plow, apply fertilizer to pesticides, graze cattle, or even build a fence in these areas or even around them. A federal permit will cost me time, money, and the federal government is under no obligation to even give me. We simply cannot afford to be required to obtain a federal permit each time we go out to maintain these roads because of the ditches that run alongside them. There are ambiguities in the present regulatory landscape that many producers have found arbitrary and confusing. Those are just a few of the comments that were in the testimony that we received today from these various witnesses. And so I would submit, Mr. Chairman, that this is just a very, very wrong-headed move. The rule excessively expands jurisdictional authority and due to a lack of clarity creates opportunities for all kinds of unintended consequences to plague the forestry sector and other sectors of our economy for years to come. So my question, I guess I would say to all of you, because I think this is something that we've raised this last year in a meeting with the administrator, and that is, do you believe that the EPA did an adequate job of reaching out and soliciting information from your respective industries, businesses, or entities before it published the proposed rule? Because EPA Administrator McCarthy told many of us on the committee last year that her agency would make an intensive effort to solicit information from stakeholders before publication of the final waters of the U.S. rule. Did any of you believe that happened?
Let's start with Commissioner Padgett. You each have about 5 seconds to respond to that.
No, sir, it was inadequate.
Mr. Brody.
No.
Mr. Kinley.
American Mosquito Control Association, Northwest Mosquito Control Association, and many mosquito abatement districts were not aware of this proposed rule until after it was published.
Mr. McClellan.
No.
Mr. Metz, representing Nebraska, who left the Big 12 to go to the Big 10.
Not at all, sir.
And Mr. Pepper.
I think the EPA has gone out of their way and is making a definite effort to reach out to all stakeholders.
Well, 5 out of 6 isn't too bad.
There you go.
Mr. Holt.
He's very still
batting cleanup.
He's very sore about that Big 12 thing, too, you should know. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When Senator Thune started talking, I wasn't sure where he was. I found him there.
I'm down here on the kids section of the end bench.